Lesson 7.2, Equations with Rational Numbers. Lesson 7.2, Equations with Rational Numbers. Example 1. Solve 7 over 10 times n plus 3 over 2 is equal to 3/5 times n plus 2. Once again, solve 7 over 10 times n plus 3 over 2 is equal to 3/5 times n plus 2. Step 1. Determine the least common multiple of the denominators 10, 5, and 2. So in other words, what they want you to do is to look at the 10, the 2, and the 5. And then ask yourself, what number is it? What is the lowest number that 10, 2, and 5 can go into? Also, you look at this, there's a 1 there up under that 2, but it doesn't count since it's just a 1. So once again, you're trying to get rid of the denominators on the fraction to make the problem easier to work. So the question you ask is, what number is it that 10, 2, and 5 can go into equally? Well, one test you can use is to write down all three of the numbers separately, 10, 2, and 5. And then look at the biggest number of the ones you've written down. And then ask yourself, can 10 go into 10? Yes. Can 2 go into 10? Yes. Can 5 go into 10? Yes. So therefore, a good choice for your lowest common denominator in this case would be 10. Once again, 10 can go into 10, 2 can go into 10 evenly, and 5 can go into 10. All right, now what you can do next is to multiply both sides of the equation by the lowest common multiple, or the least common multiple. Okay, in that case it was 10. So on this side of the equation, you're going to multiply by 10. And on the other side of the equation, you're going to multiply by 10. Okay, now what that means is, now you're going to multiply each term by 10. So 10 times 7 over 10n, and then 10 times 3 over 2. And on the other side is 10 times 3 over 5 times n, and then 10 times 2. Okay, now the book is trying to show you the shortcut method to solve. In other words, 10 divided by 10 is 1. So you're left with 7n. Over here, you got 10 divided by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15. Over here, you get 10 divided by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2, so 2 times 3 is 6. So you got 6n. And here, you have 10 times 2. 10 times 2 is 20. So you end up with 7n plus 15 is equal to 6n plus 20. All right, once again, 10, don't forget there's a 1 up under there. So 10 divided by 10 is 1. So you're left with 7 times n, because the 10's cancel out. Now you multiply your next term by 10. All right, 10 on top and a 2 on the bottom. What's 10 divided by 2? That is 5. What's 5 times 3? That is 15. All right, come to the other side. 10 times 3/5 times n. What's 10 divided by 5? That's 2. What's 2 times 3? 2 times 3 is 6. So you got 6n. And then last, you got 10 times 2, which is 20. All right, now for those of us who are confused on what we just did, let's review some basic math. All right, here we go. Now we multiply by 10, but we're multiplying fractions. So the 10 is really 10 over 1. 10 on the top, 1 on the bottom. 7 on top, 10 on the bottom. 3 on top, 2 on the bottom. On the other side, we're still multiplying by 10. So 10 on top, 1 on the bottom. 3 on top, 5 on the bottom. 2 on top, and a 1 on the bottom. Okay, so now we multiply. Now when we multiply, we realize that 10 over 1 must be multiplied by 7 over 10. Then 10 over 1 times 3 over 2. Then 10 over 1 times 3 over 5n. And then 10 over 1 times 2. All right, now 10 times 7 is 70. Actually, we're saying 10 times 7n, so that's 70n. 1 times 10 is 10. 10 times 3 is 30. 1 times 2 is 2. Let's go to the other side. 10 times 3 is 30. 1 times 5 is 5. 10 times 2 is 20. 1 times 1, we don't need to write this, but 1 times 1 is 1. Now this is the long way, but it's probably the way most of you can probably understand it. Also, I forgot to put an N right here. All right, so let's look at it again. 10 times 7. 10 times 7n is 70n. 1 times 10 is 10. 10 times 3 is 30. 1 times 2 is 2. 10 times 3 is 30n, because it's 10 times 3n, so 30n. 1 times 5 is 5. 10 times 2 is 20. And 1 times 1 is 1. All right, now that's reviewing how to multiply fractions when the fractions has a variable. Okay, next we're going to simplify. What's 70 divided by 10? That's 7. So you're left with 7n. What's 30 divided by 2? That's 15. What's 30 divided by 5? That's 6. Don't forget to bring that n along for the ride. And then, of course, what's 20 divided by 1? That's 20. So our equation then is 7 times n plus 15 is equal to 6n plus 20. Now we're back to solving an equation with variables on both sides. We're going to use inverse operations to solve the equation. All right? Now, normally I move the variable first, but sometimes they let you move the constant first. Either one is fine. So we're going to move this 15, subtract 15 from both sides, because it says a positive 15 there. So minus 15 on this side, minus 15 on that side. Remembering when I do the one side, I must do it to the other side. All right, now a positive 15, we combine with a negative 15, that is going to go to 0, and that is going to cancel out. So I'm left with just 7n. Bring my equal sign down, and now I got a positive 20 minus 15. 20 minus 15 is 5. I bring my 6n down, so now I'm left with 7n is equal to 6n plus 5. 7n is equal to 6n plus 5. Now, I have to get my n's on the same side, so therefore I move the smallest n between 7n and 6n. The smallest n is 6n. It's a positive 6n, so I'm going to subtract 6n from both sides. So minus 6n, minus 6n. 7n minus 6n is 1n. There's no need to write the 1 there because it's only one n that is present. So that 1 there doesn't need to be written, it is implied. Now I have 6n minus 6n. That's going to go to 0. So I'm left with just 5. So my answer then is n is equal to 5. All right, let's look at the equation again, moving the variable first. We're going to come out with the same answer. But I like to move the variable first because it makes it easier to determine which number you're going to move to which side, to keep everything positive. So once again, we got a 7n and we got a 6n, which is smaller than 6n. So I'm going to say minus 6n here and minus 6n there. All right, now what's 7n minus 6n? That's going to be just n, or just 1n. Remember that 1 does not have to be written, but we know it's there. So I got n plus what? 15, and that's equal to, what's 6n minus 6n? That's going to be 0, so that's gone. So bring down that 20. So now I can easily tell I'm going to move to 15, because if I move to 15, that's the only way this n is going to be by itself. So I go minus 15, minus 15. Now, what's a positive 15 when combined with a negative 15? That's going to be 0, so that's gone. So now I'm left with n is equal to 20 minus 15, which is 5. Don't forget that's a 1 in there. That is a 1 in there. Solving an equation that involves decimals. Example 2. Javier walks from his house to the zoo at a constant rate. After walking 0.75 mile, he meets his brother, Raul, and they continue walking at the same constant rate. When they arrive at the zoo, Javier has walked for 0.5 hour and Raul has walked for 0.2 hour. What is the rate in miles per hour at which the brothers walk to the zoo? Step 1. Write an equation for the distance from the brothers' house to the zoo, using the fact that the distance equals rate times time. Let R equals the brothers' walking rate. Distance to the zoo, 0.2 times R plus 0.75. And that's equal to distance to the zoo, 0.5 times R. All right, so now we can write our equations. Distance to the zoo is equal to distance to the zoo. All right, one version of the distance is 0.2 times R plus 0.75, and that's equal to the other version, which is 0.5 times R. So now we have decimals there. We got a decimal here, a decimal here, and a decimal there. All right, we wrote it again over here so you can see it. Now the idea is to try to get rid of the decimals to make the problems easier to work. Now to get rid of the decimals, you have to remember one rule. Each place you move a decimal, that's like multiplying it by 10. So when you move your decimal to the right, that's multiplying it by 10. Move this one to the right, you got to do it twice. That's like multiplying by 100. And then move this one to the right, that's like multiplying by 10 to make it a whole number. So this becomes 2. If you move this one 2 places, 1, 2, it becomes 75. You move this one 2 places, move it 1 place, it becomes 5. Now, you multiply everything by the one that you have to move the most places, and that'll be the 75. You got to move the 75 2 places, 1, 2. So that's like multiplied by 100. So after you do that, then, okay, so now we're going to multiply everything in the equation by 100. So 100 here, 100 times 0.2 times R, plus 100 times 0.75, and that's equal to 100 times 0.5. So multiplying 0.2 times 100, we end up with 20, because we're going to move our decimal place 2 places, once, twice, ends up being 20. Now we're going to move this one also 2 places, 100 times 0.75, 2 places, 1, 2. That ends up being 75. And then we go to the other side and we say 100 times 0.5. We do that 2 places, that'll be 1, 2. That end up being 50. So we end up then with 20 times R plus 75 is equal to 50 times R. All right, so now we go into step 3. Use inverse operations to solve the equation. We write the equation, 20 times R plus 75 is equal to 50 times R. We're going to subtract 20R from both sides because we got variables on both sides, and we move the smallest variable. So minus 20, minus 20. Don't forget, we started with a positive 20. The inverse of positive is negative. So negative 20, negative 20. That's going to cancel out. 20R minus 20R, that goes to 0. I bring my 75 down. Now I got 50R minus that 20R. 50R minus 20R is 30R. So now I'm with 75 is equal to 30 times R. I want to get this R by itself. I'm multiplying. So therefore I will divide both sides by 30. So 30 on this side, 30 on that side. 75 divided by 30 is 2.5. 30 divided by 30 is 1, so I'm left with just 1R. So the brothers' constant rate of speed was 2.5 miles per hour. Example 3, writing a real-world situation from an equation. Write a real-world situation that can be modeled by the equation 0.95 times x is equal to 0.55 times x plus 60. The left side of the equation consists of a variable term. It could represent the total cost for x items. The right side of the equation consists of a variable term plus a constant. It could represent the total cost for x items plus a flat fee. The equation 0.95 times x is equal to 0.55 times x plus 60 could be represented by this situation. Tuning Tune charges 0.95 for each song you download. Upward Download charges 55 cents for each song, but also charges an annual membership fee of $60.